Hello and welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Farah Sachs. This episode spotlights members of the Aventura Marketing Council. So from HCA, Florida, Aventura Hospital, Dr. Trish Stephen joins me. She is the Chief Medical Officer, and Chief of Psychiatry, Dr. Samuel Newhut, joins me as well. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to coming from all the way from Aventura to come visit me here.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us. We're here to serve the community.
Thank you. And let's just jump right in. What is going on with the new variant in terms of the infection rate and the hospitalization rate? Everybody wants to know, and we're, it's different now that we're 2.5 years into this, and we'll get into the emotional, mental, and well-being of your patients and how you're addressing them as well.
Thank you for the question. There's much to be talked about regarding the new variant. It's BA.5. It's 95% of all the Americans, people that are having COVID right now, is infected with BA.5. Even though it's more infectious, it's less virulent. And then for our Southern Florida colleagues, we mostly have 95% of our population that have one vaccine already. About 80% have 2 vaccines, and about 49% have booster. That being said, because we have accomplished the immunity that is called herd immunity, which was much desired, the infectivity, even though very infectious, the severity is a lot lower. Our hospitalization rates compared to the highest of the high in January is 70% less, and the population that is affected is 70 or older and immunocompromised. So the way we treat this is we have a way to protect ourselves. So protect yourself, get vaccinated, get booster, and the disease will touch you as if it's a cold or a flu, and you will not have to end up in the hospital or severely ill for that. For those who are immunocompromised, we recommend the same. The mask has been directed toward just droplet precautions. This variant is so infectious that it's airborne. But for those who are immunocompromised, if it's more comfortable for you to wear a mask to prevent droplets, go ahead and do so, but take all measures to protect yourself. However, can't stress enough, the vaccine and the booster, that's the best way to protect yourself. You can get infected with the BA.5, but you will get a mild cold.
And what if you didn't get that second booster? Should you wait? And are we getting new boosters coming to the market? It's a big question. Everybody asks, should we wait? Should I do it? No.
Thank you for the question. So protect yourself and protect yourself timely. There will be a new one coming out incorporating the new variants. However, the current booster is still effective. So protect yourself timely. The time is now. Don't wait.
Absolutely. So we consider this an endemic versus a pandemic now?
Correct.
So Dr. New, can you just tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing as far as the mental illness, mental health, and how this pandemic or endemic is affecting your clients?
So I think when the pandemic first started, we had a lot of anxiety about the unknown, about getting sick, about getting COVID. And then that anxiety kind of shifted to depression, where a lot of senior patients were isolating. College students, high school students felt like they were missing out on what was supposed to be, their senior year or their freshman year of college. A lot of them were doing virtual schooling. I had a lot of patients that go to Florida State or University of Miami, and they weren't living the college life they imagined. Now what we're seeing actually is I'm seeing a lot less depression and a lot less anxiety about COVID. Now I'm just seeing a lot of people with anxiety in general. So whether they're worried about the real estate market or the economy. I mean, it's kind of nice that the shift has switched. Very few people even bring up COVID to me anymore in my office. But I do think 50 to 60% of the people I'm seeing are just more anxious in general. And a lot of them are first-time patients that never had a history of anxiety.
So what would you do, Dr. Newhut, about if someone came to you as anxious or depressed or just not feeling well? I mean, how do you identify and what to do as far as a regimen moving forward?
So obviously we would do like a full evaluation, but I mean, not everyone needs medication. I mean, exercise, eating healthy, seeing a therapist. I mean, I think those are really good first steps, but everything's about level of impairment. And if it's starting to impair their career, their love life, their kids, then we definitely would consider medication. And I'm seeing a lot of patients that see their primary care doctor first get put on benzodiazepines or things that maybe we could have started them on something a little bit more mild first.
So those are basically short-term, quick-acting.
Exactly, and those are the things that in the community you probably have heard of, like a Xanax, a Klonopin. Ideally, we would start with more mild, or something like an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, such as
So Lexapro,
exactly
anything with
first,
the serotonin.
yeah.
A
Mhm.
mood lifter.
Before we go to the more, something like Xanax is very addictive. So I'm getting a lot of patients that they went and saw their primary care doctor. The doctor thought they were helping them, giving them Xanax, and then it's much harder to switch them to something else. But
Is those benzoids, are they addictive?
they are,
Mhm.
and they're associated with memory loss. I mean, they can be helpful. I mean, if someone's afraid to fly on a plane, or a lot of dentists use it for root canals. But I think that in general, we're trying to use evidence-based medicine with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. But also, again, I like exercise, seeing a therapist, taking time off. A lot of people don't take enough time off, and it really builds up. I mean, one positive of the pandemic is a lot of people are spending a lot more time outdoors. I mean, myself included, and they're realizing, like, wow, when I'm outside, I'm a lot less anxious.
Why is that?
I think some of it's just the sun. I mean, we're lucky here in South Florida. I think look how many people moved to South Florida, Texas, these states where people can go in the pool every weekend. People, all these people that were in their house with their kids, kind of like isolating. Now they're outside at the pool every day. They're able to do things that, the sun feels really good on people. And even though it's hot here over the summer, I mean, people are outside all day.
And you're from Florida.
Yes.
You grew up here, so you know about hot.
I do. And, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Chicago, but I mean, I love Florida. And I think it's, if you look at all the charts, it's still in the top 2 or 3 of where people are migrating from the Northeast, from California, from these different places.
And how long have you been with HCA Florida?
7 years now.
7 years. And where did you study your medicine background?
I did undergraduate at Columbia, med school at Chicago Medical School, and I did all my training, adult and child training, at University of Miami.
Oh, go
Homegrown.
Canes! Like this. Yeah. So talk about the highlights of the specialties that are offered to the community through HCA Florida.
Thank you for asking the question. So at HCA Aventura, Florida, we have several highlights on our specialists that we're proud of, that deliver standard of care and beyond standard of care. One of the highlights you are seeing sitting right here with me is the Chief of Psychiatry, Dr. Muhat. We cater to the community with psychiatry and geriatric psychiatry. We also have a residency training program for psychiatry, so it's a multidisciplinary approach. We have social service, we have residents, we have seasoned psychiatrists, we have psychiatry specialized nurse, and we take the patients and treat the patient as a whole human being. Dr. Newhut hit on several highlights of how do you emerge from the pandemic and thrive from it, transitioning from COVID anxiety to just general life anxiety. And part of the thing is taking care of yourself and devoting time to yourself. And part of that is the whole person care. And that's what our psychiatry team aim to do. And they address the human being as a whole person. The natural way to really lift your mood is family time, outdoors activity, not necessarily straight to the sedative medicine. So the natural mood lifter are exercise, diet, family time, swimming, any kind of life activity that expose you to, that get you back to the more normal daily life that we used to do. The second line of service besides psychiatry is taking care of your heart health. One of our highlights is our cardiovascular service line. We have phenomenal result in terms of our structural heart program, our open heart program. And something else that we're proud of, talking about being outdoors and exercise, our orthopedics program. We have phenomenal physicians, and we have one of the best measures in terms of orthopedics. We were named number 1 of the top 100 hospital for orthopedics care in the country. And for that matter, we were named the top 250 best hospital for quality and clinical outcomes 2 years in a row, 2021 and 2022. So, and very soon, by the end of this year, we're opening a new specialty care inpatient rehab, should the patient needs it. they're healthy enough after the acute episode, but they need some help to get back to normal daily life, to get to the better healthy them, and that's what we're offering beginning of next year as well.
Well, good. There's a lot of things coming down the pike.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back to the older generation that have gone through the pandemic or and moving forward. Have you seen that increase at the hospital?
Definitely in my office. In the hospital, we're definitely getting patients. I mean, it's kind of the same. People are really isolated. People are still, the older generation is still a little bit more nervous. I think a lot of the younger generation is back to traveling, back to being on planes. I mean, I think Memorial Day weekend, more people flew than like at any point in the last 3 years.
Right.
But yeah, we're definitely getting people that are isolative. A lot of people's families live in other states and they're not ready to travel yet or kind of go back to quote normal. But I think definitely people, I would say like 60 and under, are basically going back to restaurants, vacation. I mean, I've had 3 patients this week telling me they're going to Europe, going to Iceland, going all over the world. A lot of people are going on 14, 16-day cruise. I mean, a lot of my patients are really, going back to travel with a vengeance. They're like, I'm going to do this trip here and then that trip, and I'll see you in September. I'm that's amazing.
That's what you want, right?
Exactly. So it's nice to hear that, but definitely, I think it has. If I was going to say who this has affected the most, it's definitely seniors because they're the most at risk, but also because they're the ones taking the most precautions and isolating the most. And then I'd say even younger people, because like I said, like everyone's like, oh, the best time of my life was college or this or that. And like if 3 years of your life has been, attending college through a computer, it's not the same. But even that's pretty much kind of trending back to normal.
And how do you deal with the older generation, knowing that they're not as mobile, they don't run, after 60 as much, and how would you get them so that their psychiatry and that their well-being is taken care of, knowing that they're a little slower than the younger generation and taking more precautions, but you don't want them to isolate?
I still encourage them to, if you don't feel comfortable eating in a restaurant indoors, then eat outside. I mean, one beautiful thing about Florida is all these restaurants have outdoor seating now. I mean, literally a lot of them even built out these really nice outdoor seating. So I like to eat outside, or, if you want to go swimming, if you're able to go swimming, that's great. Or if you want to just sit outside, I'm not a beach person, but I've been going to the beach a little bit more, and it's very relaxing.
And that's funny because you grew up here.
I think when you grow up here, you take it for granted. I mean, my friends visit from New York, and they're there all day, every day.
And I grew up in New York, and I never went to the Statue of Liberty until I was just visiting New York. So that's really scary.
Exactly. So, I think even just if you're not mobile, just sitting on the beach or sitting outside, or, one thing that the pandemic has also shown a lot of people is a lot of people used to travel a lot for work. I mean, I have friends who were gone all week, or patients that barely saw their families. And then they kind of realized like, wow, like I like my family. I'm going to spend more time with my family. And I think even as things progress and it's becoming an endemic, I don't know that people are going to be traveling as much. I think Zoom meetings, WebEx, do you really have to go to California for this one lunch? Maybe you guys can just have a Zoom. I think some of that is probably here to stay, at least what I'm hearing from a lot of my patients. Like they're still traveling, but not, 100 flights a year, probably more like 10 or 20.
And I think that's great because it really helps us prioritize, what's important. And I think once we realize that, then we can move forward and really take stock on our own lives.
Well, I think the pandemic, I see it with a lot of my patients or even people I know. I think before the pandemic, everyone had all these friends and did all these different things. Now I think people are actually spending less time with friends, more time with family, and maybe more time with close friends. So they've almost like cut the fat off the steak. Now it's like the lean, like, oh, I'm going to spend more time with my nuclear family or my grandparents or my best friend versus like, oh, I'm going to go to this party, that party, like, oh, we're going to go to the mall. I think people are definitely spending more family time together. And I think that's one positive that has come through the past 3 years is people are definitely spending more time with their families.
That's wonderful. Dr. Stevens, what are some of the programs that are offered for for our audience to know and participate in? Would it be yoga? Would it be getting together with other people that are going through what they're going through, whether it be grief or loss or sickness?
So we recommend from the community point of view, if you are bereaving your family and you're still emerging from that, reaching out to your either age group or through the community center. The Y is one of the nicest places that encourages you to exercise, to adapt the activity that you can and build up your endurance in terms of exercise. But you build a community around you and being able to emerge in that type of community that doing the same likeness and the same type of endurance as you, and that just builds up over time, and it's helped people connect with other people in their community that together live their foundation of health. Beyond that, we also recommend families and parents get involved in the school program, the PTA, and talk about the younger child and the older people. For the younger kid going back to school, it's a new normal now, but some parents still have the reluctancy. So get involved in your school program, get involved in the PTA, and that way you share the thought process, and you help lift your school and your community, and also ensure that your kids are being educated the way that you predict for their future, so that you can recover from this without having this gap of 3 years of online schooling. Because the same effect we see with college kids is younger kid with online schooling, it deprived them of some of the social interactions and the social skills. And one way for the community to do that is to build on our new generation and get back to the PTA, enroll your kids in extracurricular activity, get them outdoor, and also give them a sense of community, give them back the normalcy that we know and love, that grow up with, that make us wholesome a human being. And that will be our recommendation. We are getting out to school. As you know, we're a level 2 trauma center from the Department of Health, state of Florida. And part of our outreach program is we go out to high school, middle school, and we teach them life skills, we teach them coping skills, and we teach them skills to prevent them from getting these traumas. And part of that is we're asking for family and asking for community engagement to be part of something bigger, to lift each other, because this is the new you. And we want to do that for our community.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that we ask for help if we need help, and know we have resources and people that love us, whether it be family or friends, or whether it be guidance counselor, is to really reach out and don't suffer in silence. So let's talk about the growth and development that is happening at the hospital. Who wants to talk about that? I see Dr. Stevens is really happy about that one.
A lot of excitement, as you see whenever you drive by a hospital and there's a crane. That's the place to be, because we're growing. We have the East Tower that we built 3-story on at the end of last year. We had just put up the 4th and the 5th story, and our 4th and 5th story is going to house our new inpatient rehabs to help patient get over the acute phase of care, so that they can get back to functional ability to serve and to put them back to the community where they belong and where they can blossom. The bottom floor, we're adding a new gym. It's going to be outpatient rehab therapy, state-of-the-art gym, also to target toward the health and the well-being of the community. And that also support our neurospine surgical specialties, our orthopedic surgical specialty. And, we're looking forward to growing our psychiatry program too. There's a need in the community, and Dr. Newhutch touched on that, adolescent psych. And so we're looking toward embarking on that, serving the community need, and just get us back into where we need to be, and to not only recover from the pandemic, but get over the daily anxiety to become more wholesome and to grow in that direction.
We're in our closing time together. Do you want to talk a little bit, anything that we might have not touched upon, both of you, that you would like to address?
I think like I said, we're seeing a lot of patients that never had a history of anxiety. I mean, panic disorder and panic attacks do tend to trend in people in their 30s and 60s. So, I'm getting a lot of people in those age ranges that are like, I don't know why this is happening. Like, my life is perfect. I'm married, I'm working, I'm this. So, if you do think you need help, our office sees patients. We have an intensive outpatient program at the hospital where you see a lot of therapists, and it's 3 times a week. And I think people are more open to getting help now, especially 3 years into this.
So what is the number that they can call? Is that the main number that we have?
They can call the main
Yep.
number, or if they're interested in our IOP program, the number is 305-937-5804. or my office number is 305-692-3270.
And
Thank you.
why does it happen in the 30s and the 60s? What's going on? And is it our chemistry that's changing? Is it our environment that's caused this?
I mean, that's a great question. And I don't even think, evidence-based medicine has come up with the exact answer. But I do think, a lot of people in their 60s are starting to either retire or slow down a little bit. And then in the 30s is when people are, sometimes starting families or kind of moving up in their careers. So, but there's not like a set answer. But I definitely have patients who are like 63, no psych history, coming to see me being like, my life is perfect. Why am I so anxious? And, I'm getting more and more patients like that.
And anxiety presents in very strange ways.
A lot of times they end up going to the ER for chest pain. It's ruled out. They think they're having a heart attack. It turns out to be a panic attack. Or a lot of gastroenterologists, stomach doctors send me patients because, listen, anxiety can lead to people feeling like they need to throw up or having diarrhea or different GI symptoms. So a lot of times they'll get a full workup that'll turn out completely normal, which again, I think it's always good people get the full workup. But after that, the GI doctor is like, why don't you see a psychiatrist?
Yeah. And no, I remember I had one and I really thought I was going to die. I was so sick in my stomach and I thought, God, I have this, my head went to a place that I just was like, wow, that's really scary. But, when you realize what's going on, there are ways to really help to alleviate these symptoms with some of the medications, with some kind of meditation or on and on and on and on. Fresh air, exercise really helps.
Yeah, it's come down to psychosomatic, symptomatic display. So your entire body is primed to respond to your state of mental well-being, and it's a feedback loop. So when you do take better care of your personal well-being and your physical well-being, it feeds back into your mental state of well-being. That's why it's so important, not just focusing on one thing, but focusing on your overall health. And that's part reason why we're proud of where we're working at, HCA Hospital, Aventura. We're addressing human being as the whole you, not just a part of you, because at the end of the day, your brain didn't walk into the hospital, your heart didn't walk into the hospital, your stomach didn't walk into the hospital.
There was a day that I thought my stomach walked into the hospital.
But the whole patient
like a joke.
walked into the hospital.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're aiming to take care of, the whole patient and the whole community.
Absolutely. Why did you get into psychiatry of all professions?
I love it. I've always been interested in psychology in college and just working with patients. And, I think that each person's different and it's nice to hear people's full story, like what led them to this or that. And, I think it's more than just medications. It's nice to see, I see kids, I see adults, I see elderly patients, and it's really nice to get to see the patient as a whole. That's
great. And Dr. Stephens, how did you come to this moment in your life as a chief medical officer? We know each other also from the Aventura Marketing Council, which has been a great way to meet and intersect with different businesses and community leaders. And so I've had the opportunity and many times to be with Dr. Stephens. So it's been really my pleasure.
Thank you for the question. I think I start out in life with human suffering and learning that what do we do as humans to alleviate other human suffering? And that was the calling and the passion for me to go into medicine. And in my position, I found that I come across many, many great physicians who are like-minded and who want to change human being in the healthcare delivery system for the better. And above all, lifting the quality of care and addressing human being and alleviating suffering. A lot of time we can't cure disease, but we can certainly alleviate suffering and elevate the quality of life. And that's the reason why I became the chief medical officer. And I couldn't have done this without my physicians, phenomenal physicians like Dr. Newhut, my other chief, Dr. Schiffman, Dr. Stewart, Dr. Krieger, the great physicians with the right purpose and the right mindset. And together we lift the quality of Aventura. And that's why we are where we are today. We're proud. We're top 99 percentile in eliminating harms in the hospital per CMS ranking 2 years in a row. And we've come a long way, and we hope to be here to serve the community and to lift the human spirit as a whole.
And we'll keep looking for those cranes. Because that means action is happening.
Absolutely. We grow from quality up. That's how it should be.
Dr. Newhut, Dr. Stevens, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have any questions, feel free to call the Aventura Hospital at 305-682-7000, or they can be reached at HCA Florida Health care.com. They're located in the heart of Aventura. They have many, many different specialties that could help with your wellness and getting you back on track to a whole new you and to be vibrant as we move forward in the community. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a
Yes,
pleasure
thank you
and
for
honor.
having us.
And for me, I'm Farah Sachs. This has been the Community Voice. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay well and take care.